Well, hello everybody from Santa Fe College. I'm Andy Sheppard. I'm joined by my colleague, Ms. Chanda McCann.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
And we're going to present on our Accessibility and Copyright Primer, which is a fancy name for a training program we developed. Santa Fe College, by the way, is in, are we in the bitter now? Santa Fe College is in Gainesville, Florida, not to be confused with the one in Mexico. The mic is very quiet.
Okay.
Blackboard lied to us. They said volume was okay. Any better now? Can you hear us now? Joseph says it sounds good to him, volume fine, yes. Fred says,
yes.
Thank you, and we'll project a little more to be on the safe side. So greetings from Santa Fe College in Gainesville, and we're excited to share this with you. I do want to say thank you so much to the moderators and the organizers of this event. Brett has been fantastic, along with Mercedes and Alexis, and I'd like to encourage everybody to put some kind of positive emoji into the chat. Send them some love, maybe a smiley face, a thumbs up, some kind of token of appreciation for them. They've been at it all day. I've been checking in and out throughout the day. So thanks for everything you've done, and the ESC Commission for arranging this.
Likewise.
So today we're going to share with you efforts on our part to improve the accessibility of instructional content. Specifically, we'll provide you an opportunity to look at our Accessibility and Copyright Primer. And if we have time, we're going to maybe talk about why does Captain Jean-Luc Picard have so many electronic devices? I mean, seriously, it's the 24th century. It looks like he's got a laptop. Maybe he's not too impressed with the latest iPad. Maybe he's got a Zoom in the background and a Kindle. Come on, why so many devices? And I feel obliged to put a Star Trek reference in every presentation, so you'll just have to bear with that. To gauge participation, we'd like to get a sense of what some of the roles are here. If you could maybe type out in a few words, what's your position with your college? And then also perhaps if you can indicate on the scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a novice and 10 being an expert, how might you rank your knowledge of accessibility? And that will kind of give us a sense of who we have here in the audience. We can kind of gauge appropriately. Got some financial aid folks, some student success folks, librarians. Librarians are always in attendance at these things. And we got folks across the map, some 3s and 7s, a couple more student support service folks, another librarian.
Oh, academic advising.
Love our advisors.
Yeah.
And we're all very much aware that people are putting in their roles, but we all tend to wear more than one hat. Oh, we got an English department chair. Great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. So this is Dr. Norman Coombs, and forgive me for reading the slide, but we just think this is such an important context. Dr. Coombs says, providing accessible content is a legal requirement for its institution, its staff, and its faculty, but providing a quality education to all students should be a more useful motivator than is the threat of law. And that's what motivates me and my colleague Chanda here in the work that we do. We just think it's being good humans. Yeah, there's a legal component, but we take the approach that it's just the right thing to do. Pictured here is Dr. Coombs. His book is Making Online Teaching Accessible. If you're looking for a, pardon the pun, more accessible book about accessibility, this is a really good read. It's not too technical, carried in most libraries. And your librarians, we have a few there, can probably help you find it.
So what is accessibility? Accessibility is all about removing barriers to education. Accessibility is really just the ability for everyone, regardless of disability, functional limitations, program of study, background, language, and so forth, to really use, access, and benefit from everything within their environment. So we've taken some of our cues from Penn State and some research that they conducted back in 2016.
My arm can't stretch. There we go.
Our Disabilities Resource Center here on campus is, the hub for our students with disabilities, visible disabilities, to really sort of minimize barriers to access, to participate in educational opportunities, the educational environment, and really just to be on essentially a level playing field as their peers. And so we take our work quite seriously, as well as partnering with colleagues such as my friend Andy here, faculty, librarians, and various stakeholders across the campus in our efforts to ensure access. And this screenshot here just sort of gives an overview of our office. We serve just shy of 1,000 students currently on our campus, and the bulk of our student population with disabilities is comprised of students. First sort of tier of that population would include students that have emotional and mental health disabilities, and that second tier would include students with learning disabilities. So again, many of those invisible disabilities that really are not readily known, but certainly the need for access and minimizing barriers is crucial. Universal design for learning is a huge paradigm in the work that we do. In UDL, you know, as we refer to it, is really all about providing content in multiple forms. So whether that be text, images, audio, video, physical components, we really want to make sure everyone has access to content and information. We want to also give choice to learners in how they receive knowledge, how they're able to express their knowledge base. So whether that be the ability for them to write papers in a course, create a presentation, delivering a speech, or sharing things out in an auditory format as opposed to written, because maybe that's where their strengths lie, or because of functional limitations, they are able to showcase their knowledge in that way as opposed to just strictly being tied to one modality versus another. Also, UDL helps to engage learners through just various means, and it also helps to make the connection between instructional materials and strengthen student interest overall.
So those of you who might have done some work in this area or work with folks who do, what's the image that often comes to mind when people talk about universal design? If you have to know, type it into the chat box here. Is there a particular image that comes to mind when you hear the concept of universal design? Surely the librarians know. Variety of learners? Sure. Looking for a more specific, vivid image. Okay, so it may not be as popular outside of the DRC circles. This is often the image. Here we see a picture of a wheelchair approaching a sidewalk with a curb cut. And this curb cut makes the sidewalk a lot more accessible for people in wheelchairs, but it turns out that it benefits other people as well. Think of a mother with a stroller, think about a cyclist, someone with a shopping cart. So universal design is certainly about factoring in people with disabilities, but we realize that when we do this, so many other people benefit to a great extent. A more personal example I like to think of is, this is a picture from a hotel bathroom. This is the night before a conference. And this is the accessibility stall. This is certainly useful for someone perhaps in a wheelchair, but it's also useful for jolly green giants like myself that are over 6'4" and can't fit underneath the shower stall. So this ends up benefiting not just people with disabilities, but folks of varying sizes as well. So I'm certainly grateful for that. Universal design impacts us in ways we probably don't even imagine. Here's a picture of me wrapping up the hotel alarm clock inside of a towel. Can anybody guess why I might be doing that? I've taken to doing this on a regular basis to avoid an unexpected alarm going off at 5:30 in the morning.
Yikes.
In the interest of time, I'll just share. The problem here is that 3 buttons on this alarm clock, and none of the buttons have labels. And when we talk about universal design, we think it's important to be very explicit. So if you have buttons, there should be labels as to what they do. Since I couldn't figure out how to turn off the alarm or even check if the alarm was on, I unplugged it, pulled out the batteries, wrapped it up in a towel, and stuck it in the bottom of a drawer on the other side of the hotel room. Universal design impacts us in every way and everything that we do, and by leveraging accessible design techniques, we all fare better. This is also especially important because we are seeing some enormous trends in online video use. As this slide notes, more than 500 million hours of videos are watched on YouTube each day. More video content is uploaded in 30 days than the major US television networks have created in 30 years. That's phenomenal. And by 2021, it's estimated 1 million minutes of video content will cross global IP networks every single day, which maybe that's why Jean-Luc Picard has so many devices to keep up with that video content. You've got to have like 5 or 6 screens. And we all know, we don't have to look very far across our campuses and notice that our students are increasingly accessing digital content via their personal devices, smartphones, laptops, tablets, what have you. Here's an example. I'm also an adjunct faculty member. This is another Star Trek reference for those of you counting. This is a unit on emotional intelligence, and we can create engaging materials by taking things from popular media, like video, and including them in our course, but we have to be mindful of accessibility as we do that.
Another item to be mindful of is that there are often voluminous amounts of third-party content that faculty and other folks across our campuses may point out to and or integrate into their pedagogy. And so this screenshot is just, a common example. So maybe going out to YouTube or Vimeo or, some other host or platform as a point of engagement for students. But even though it's not necessarily content created by that individual faculty, it is content that students with disabilities will be interacting with and also need to have the ability to benefit from. So in this instance, we want to make sure there are actual appropriate captions on this video. Oftentimes in sort of making sure captions are contained in multimedia content, we are aware with the advancement of technology, one can utilize the feature for auto-generated captions. However, we want to be mindful of a few things in utilizing those tools. So you need to make sure that the captions don't contain any errors, that they don't lack appropriate punctuation. There isn't a misrepresentation of material because that could all impede learning. And in summary, we would like to make sure the captions actually satisfy ADA requirements. And momentarily we'll speak about sort of some of the standards that we've utilized on our campus for appropriate captions. In the screenshot to the right of this slide, you see Mitt Romney speaking about airstrikes, but in the auto-generated captions, it actually noted this incorrectly as, what that was.
Strike it, reverse it. So
yeah.
Governor Romney was talking about the need for an increased strength, but YouTube misinterpreted that to mean airstrikes.
Yes. Yeah.
And although similar, those are, pardon the pun, strikingly different things, and he could walk away having an entirely different understanding of what was being asked for because of one little error.
Exactly.
That's what happens when I give you my slides. They're going to return the favor as I look at one of your slides. Sorry, Andy broke the platform. Okay. So broadly speaking, we redoubled our accessibility efforts in fall of 2016 through the formation of an accessibility work group. And if you're finding that you have a lot of parties on your campus that aren't really in the know about accessibility, this is one of the best things you can do. Our group was formed by folks obviously from the DRC, but we have representation from IT services, student services, the library, we have faculty representation, our purchasing department is represented there. And as many of those stakeholders as you can get together will really help cross-inform people about accessibility issues. And that group was charged with identifying and prioritizing ways to improve the overall accessibility of our instructional materials. One of the things that came out of the group was a recommendation to the provost to devote funds to ensure that all of the instructional content, any audio or video produced in our media studio is captioned. And I'm very pleased to say that as of January of 2019, over a year ago, anything that we produce in our media studio has accurate captions or transcripts. We also launched our Accessibility Copyright Primer, which is the focus of this presentation in the fall. It's required of all full-time faculty. And we've also provided training on topics to a couple other venues that we will touch on. Lastly, on the slide, we do have a course review process where we randomly select 20 courses each semester to address issues of accessibility. The primer, the focus of this presentation, is now required, as I said, for all full-time faculty. It's recommended for adjunct faculty. As of yesterday morning, we've had 182 faculty complete that. And it covers 5 topics in particular we'll take a look at. The primary goal to increase awareness and to encourage faculty to select accessible media. I'm going to get brave here and stop sharing and share out my screen. And it's getting there. Are you guys seeing a Wikipedia page at this point? Yes, great. I'm going to take you into our instance of Canvas and show you a quick glimpse. And our 5-minute warning went off about 45 seconds ago. This is our primer. By the way, if you're a Canvas using institution, we're happy to share this training out with you. We can export it and you can take a closer look at it. If you're not a Canvas using institution, we can arrange guest access if any of you would like to get a closer look at this. We provide some general background information, but here's the meat of it. We have a tip for improving course navigation in the LMS. We cover how you can make more accessible web links. The bulk of this is really focused on using accessible audio or video content. We cover some issues related to copyright and media use, and we encourage faculty to include our SF accessibility statement in all of the course syllabi. So this training takes between 45 minutes and an hour based on feedback from our faculty. It has been surprisingly positive, overwhelmingly positive, much to our surprise. Oh, I saw some yeses and I saw some nos.
Uh-oh.
What happened to our yeses? Fantastic. We will send a screen grab out. We'd like to pause at this moment and receive any questions you might have. And if not, we will wrap up. Apologies for the screen share fail. I'm sure I pressed the wrong button at some point.
Any questions?
See somebody typing. While we wait for potential questions. Are we familiar with Blackboard Ally? I am at the surface. A nearby institution uses it. I've looked over their shoulder. It is expensive. So the question is, are you familiar with Blackboard Ally? Blackboard Ally is one of several accessibility checkers. There's another one called UDoIt out of UCF. UDoIt is free. Well, free like a puppy. You have to set up like a server or virtual machine, have someone configure that. What these tools do is try to identify content that is inaccessible and in some cases offer tools to remediate that. I haven't done a thorough enough examination to really weigh in on Blackboard Ally. One thing I will tell you that's different about Blackboard Ally versus the others is that Blackboard Ally is the only accessibility checker I'm aware of that does institutional level reporting. So I was talking to a colleague at Florida State University, and they discovered, for instance, that they have 32,000 inaccessible PDFs. And so they're able to kind of track at a larger scale what kind of impacts they're making with their efforts. UDoIt and these other tools work at the course level. But beyond that, I can't speak to it too much. While the question's being typed, I'm noting we also have some other faculty development opportunities. We have an optional program called the Certificate for Accessible and Inclusive Practices, which takes a deeper dive into accessibility. Our second bullet point notes that we have a training program called the Certificate for Online Design and Instruction. That's required for any faculty that teach online. There is a caveat. If you've taught previously at another institution, a chair can exempt you by doing a review of your course. But by and large, folks who teach online or at college now are required to have training. And then we do periodic standalone trainings. I note here, avatars, emojis, memes, oh my, is one of our quote-unquote accessibility in disguise workshops, along with the workshop in infographics, where we try to hook them in through engaging topics and then slip in a little accessibility along the way. Chanda, any final thoughts you want?
Just overall, just ensuring accessibility is really always going to be a shared partnership. And the goal is to increase, sort of the audience, access to information, always factor in the benefit of various modalities for your learners and your audience, and just always be ready and up for a challenge and keep an open mind.
And I'm typing in our email addresses into the chat. We'd love to collaborate. And if you want to keep the conversation going, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for your attention, and we're happy to turn it back over to Brett.
Thank you.